all the different pieces. So once again, showing myself the problem solving and making sure that it was detailed. That way I knew how to solve everything. Then for classes like digital photography, which I'm actually taking this year, I kind of structure it a little bit differently. I started doing it by lessons. Like over here on the left-hand side, you can see that I have a lesson 6, and here on the right-hand side is lesson 7, because by the time I got to that side of the page, I was already done with 6, and I just went ahead and started 7 instead of creating a new page. So even though I kind of jammed it all together and instead of starting new pages like I would for a math class, it works out, because like it says up here, I used my space well, and I put a line in between each piece, and I made sure it was spread out. So by using the colors and using bolding or capitalizing or underlining, like I would capitalize my definitions so that I could find them easily, by using those different things, I was able to kind of categorize all of my notes and make sure that what was really important was able to stand out for me. And this is from actually like a textbook, by the way. I was taking notes on our textbook so that I could use them for the quiz. Then these are my examples, kind of what I do for Compass Learning Odyssey. So I'm taking English 4 this year, and you can kind of see how my notes have changed over time, and with all the different notes that I'm taking this year, how I started to do things now. So one of the things I wanted to show you guys is the usefulness of OneNote for note taking. I know if you've taken a class with Mrs. Nedved for math, she loves to use OneNote. And so OneNote is a great, or Mrs. Crow, Mrs. Crow uses OneNote a lot. So OneNote is a great resource for note taking, and you can actually create different notebooks. Like up here, over here in the left-hand corner, it says English 4 on the screenshot, and then you can create little different tabs for yourself, and then individual pages, like you can see here on the right-hand side, individual pages for each one of those. So for this example, I'm taking a bunch of notes on a medieval quiz, and I actually use the snipping tool, which I covered in another DI. If you go down here to this little search bar and you just search snipping tool, it'll pop right up, and you can actually take screenshots of whatever is on your page, whatever you want to use right away, and then you can paste them into something. So I use that for OneNote, and I just paste them in there one by one, and then I can actually, in OneNote, you can draw or you can type. So I'm able to actually edit right on top of there without having to write it down in a notebook, because with Compass, there's a lot of things already on the screen, and it would take a lot longer to actually have to write those things out. So after this, maybe I can show you an example from my notebook, or from my OneNote notebooks real quick, and show you how that's kind of organized. But you can kind of see from the screenshots here. This is a class that I am actually taking concurrently, so it's college chemistry. And I use OneNote for this class a lot because my teacher, she puts everything into PowerPoints, and she teaches from those PowerPoints. And so from there, you can kind of do whatever you want with those PowerPoints in order to take notes. So a lot of kids go ahead and they print those PowerPoints out, and then they write on them, as in like printing them with the, I think it's a notes setting, but on the left-hand side, it'll have little tiny slides, and the right-hand side, it has a bunch of lines. And that does work really well, but I don't have access to a printer that allows me to print massive pieces of PowerPoints. Actually, some of these look like whole books because they cover entire chapters of content. And so what I do with these PowerPoints is I load them into OneNote, and I can show you guys how that works here in just one sec. But I load them into OneNote, and then I actually use my iPad to take notes during class. And so I can write in OneNote on my iPad with my finger or a stylus or whatever I want, and I can write in the blanks because she uses a lot of blanks on these PowerPoints. And so that is extremely helpful for me. I think on the next page here, yeah, it shows an example also from chemistry where I can draw and I can write all over the place on OneNote. And I can show you guys how that kind of works. And so I can change my colors depending on what I'm doing so that it stands out a little bit and doesn't all run together. and I can zoom in the screen so that I can write smaller. I can put diagrams on the side. Pretty much anything that you could do with a regular notebook is right at your fingertips. So OneNote is, I think, my new favorite way for taking notes.
Casey, can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
Sorry, this is Mrs. Nedved again. So those of you who have me for class, and I am requiring notes this year, if you have me for consumer, pre-calculus, or fundamentals, I do notes in PowerPoint, and so you can definitely do this. Drop your notes right into OneNote, and I think, Casey, if you showed them how to do that, that would be awesome. If you have a way to write on your screen, or if you're in my geometry class, I actually do the OneNote notes right in there as well, and I always include those in Blackboard. If you have a way to write on your screen, what she does here is awesome and would be awesome for submitting your notes for my class. So if you're wondering how to do that, or if you didn't like what you did for the first chapter, this would be a great option. Okay, sorry, go back. Take it over, Casey.
You're good. That's a great point. I thought about talking about that, actually, that a lot of teachers, even Branson, use PowerPoints, and so that'd be great to put in. So this is kind of what I do for my OneNote personally here. I have all sorts of different notebooks in here. I have extras, but these are just the ones that I have visited recently, is for my stats class and for English 4, because I've been also taking, in addition to paper notes, I've been taking screenshots of my stats class stuff. So I'll show you an example of my chemistry class real quick, and then I can go back to English 4 if you guys like. But here in OneNote, you create a login for basically Microsoft. If you already have one, then you go ahead and use that one, and it will save everything to a server so that you can sync it to any device that you like. And over here, you can add a notebook or open other notebooks and kind of do whatever you want with that. So inside my chemistry notebook, there are all sorts of different tabs. Since I opened this one most frequently, I've actually started putting like my work for the week into a whole different page of its own on here so that I can refer to it pretty quickly. And I'll show you guys an example, I think, of some notes that I may have taken today if it shows up. Oh, okay, there we go. So actually, these were notes that I took this morning in class for chemistry. They're a little bit messy, but we were able to actually do practice problems, and so I can add in a page like this, and it'll show up with untitled page, and then I can write whatever I want on here. There's the draw button, and then you can start writing. If you double click or you hit enter, there's a text box that pops up for you with these pages. And so they're really easy to put whatever you want inside of these PowerPoints. I'll delete that real quick, and I'll show you guys how the drawing works real fast. So if you just pinch and pull on the computer, just like you would to zoom in anything else, then you can zoom in and out on these slides. And you can draw. There are pens and highlighters, and you can change their color and thickness, and you can erase. You can also lasso select to erase things. There's an undo button. Okay, so I'll show you real quick where I go to insert things. Okay, so this is how you make a new tab. Up here is this plus, and then you can go to insert and file printout, and that's how I put in worksheets. So I'll cancel that real quick so that it doesn't keep loading that while we're in DI. But that's how I put them in, and then it shows up like this, where every single slide has its own page, and you can collapse that PowerPoint if you put more than one PowerPoint in a tab in your notebook, and you can go from there. So it's kind of like having your own virtual paper notebook. It's really nice, I think. So I definitely like taking OneNote notes. It's really helpful with PowerPoint. So is there anything else you'd like me to show them on that real quick, Mrs. Nedved?
That is perfect. And if anyone does that for their notes for my class, to grade them, you can just include your link or upload the OneNote document, and I can open it right in OneNote and see it just like you're seeing it here for Casey. So thank you for showing them how you do that.
Okay, I think I've only got 1 and 2 more examples, and then we'll turn it over to Greta. So again, this is a college chemistry example because I learned that in addition to OneNote notes because I could put this in OneNote, but I also really like paper. I like the feel of actually writing things down. So for this, I also write down the answers to my online homework problems because we have online homework, much like Branson math classes for college chemistry. And so I wrote down much the same manner as I do for a math class, except for I didn't use any color just for time because the chemistry takes a while to complete. But again, I also used kind of descriptive problem solving for these problems, and I wrote down every step and how to do these things because chemistry is definitely one of those classes that, just like a lot of math classes, you kind of have to slow down and make sure that you remember how to do every little step. Okay, so my last kind of different example is actually what I do for upcoming tests. So this is something that I did while I was studying the night before a chemistry test. And basically what I did is, actually our college teacher encouraged us to do this because she allows you to have a blank piece of paper during the test and dump whatever you want. She calls it like a brain dump. You can dump whatever you want onto this piece of paper and then use it for the remainder of the test. And so what I was doing as I was studying is I would write the stuff out because writing also helps me to remember things. It helps a lot of people to remember things, and I found that it's really helpful for me. So I just started writing. I went through this, she had this long list of things that we were going to do on our test. And so I went through them one by one, and anything that I couldn't remember or anything that I knew I needed to be able to remember later on, I just started writing it down kind of all over this page by the time it got done. It wasn't really in a particular order, but this way I could look at it and then I could also glance at it right before class, and I could remember kind of all the different things that I had just covered. So here you can see, like, I had a diagram and I had a naming chart and I had a whole list of different acids that we were supposed to memorize. And so I use these before a quiz or a test just to kind of jog my memory and to help me study. So that's a different kind of note for you guys. And that's the end of my presentation.
Okay, Greta, I'm going to go ahead and make you presenter, and then it should give you the option to share your screen. All right, should be coming your way. And so far, we have a clap from Andrew. So we'll have another half of the presentation, and then, of course, time for questions and answers. So feel free to, if you have something pop in your head you don't want to forget, you're welcome to throw that out in the questions box as we go. Or at the very end, I know that's part of their, well, they have a slide to address that as well.
Can you see my screen?
Sure can. Thanks, Greta.
Okay. So I'm going to be going over organizing your computer. And something that I found, there you go. Okay, something that I found is that organization is super important, because if you don't organize your documents and your files and your assignments, it just kind of gets out of control, and then you're left with this big mess of assignments from every single class you're taking, and you have no idea how to filter through them. It's also important because everything we do is online. Even if you have to take notes, like for my history class last year, I had to take handwritten notes and send them into her, but then I would have to scan them, save them to my computer, and then send in my handwritten notes. So even those ended up being online as well. And this is going to be something that I'm sure you guys have all heard a lot, but save everything to multiple locations. I always save my files to at least 2 locations, either my flash drive or my computer, and then usually always to my Google Drive. Because if you save it in multiple locations, you just have a backup. So destination 1 is my flash drive, and this is a screenshot from a flash drive that I've been using since 8th grade, and it just actually stopped. It was full at the end of last year, so that's why you don't see my 12th grade on here. But what I would do is, in my flash drive, I'll have a folder for each grade, and then within each grade I have all of my classes. So if you look under 11th grade, you can see I have my American history, chemistry. This is one of my college classes. And on the right, what you're looking at is my American history documents, and I organize them chronologically. So everything in Branson is organized by week, week 1, week 2, week 3. So that's just what I do. I'll do the week and then a short description of whatever my assignment was. That way, if I lose an assignment or something gets turned in wrong, maybe I sent it to the wrong teacher, I can go into Infinite Campus and look for my missing assignments, and maybe my week 6 journal entry was missing. So I could go into my flash drive, just look up week 6, and it's right there. I can turn it in easily from there. And this is just a short description of what I just talked about, making a master folder for each year and then each class and organizing all your work chronologically. One thing too is you can create a folder. So say for one of the weeks you're doing a big project where you know you're going to have a bunch of documents, you can create a folder within your American History folder and label it week 7 project. Then you have your computer hard drive, and I organize my computer hard drive almost the same as I organize my flash drive. The only difference is on the computer hard drive, I can't save anything to my desktop or to my PC, because every time my computer shuts off, it'll like clean itself out and they'll go somewhere else. But in my documents folder, I can save all of my files.
Sorry, Graham, can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Sorry, this is Mrs. Nedved again. I don't normally interrupt this much, but I do want to make a note. How Greta said she can't save to her desktop or this PC, I don't think any school computers can. That's part of the way they're set up. I honestly don't know why they're set up that way, personally, but do know that how she's explaining that she saves them into my documents is how we should all be doing it, because they do wipe off of your desktop every time you restart your computer. Okay, sorry.
You're good. So in the documents, there's a ton of other stuff in there that I have no idea what it means, and I'm not going to delete it because it's probably important for the computer. So to make sure all of my assignments are in the same spot, I put a 1 in front of them. So that way they're at the top of my documents folder and they're all right in the same spot that I can see them. So all of these classes you can see have a 1 in front of them. So that way they're a lot easier to find. I'm not searching through all of the random stuff that's in my documents folder. And the final place is Google Drive. I have personally found Google Drive to be extremely confusing until this year. I'm never good with technology, so I never really looked at it and took the time to try and figure it out. And it turns out it's actually super easy, but I only have started using it this year. I had a couple classes that used it last year, but again, I organize it the same way. This is my 12th grade semester 1 folder, and then each one of my classes. And Google Drive is really great because you don't have to, it automatically saves everything for you. So no matter what computer, phone, tablet, anything, as long as you're connected to the internet, you can access your Google Drive. There's a downside where you have to be connected to the internet. There is an offline mode you can use in Google Drive, but I think you have to have the app for it. So you do have to be connected to the internet, and that's where the flash drive or the hard drive come in handy. You can do those camping or anywhere if you don't have internet. The flash drive is nice because you can transfer it from computer to computer really easily, but they're a lot easier to lose, whereas you're less likely to lose your entire computer than your flash drive. But in Google Drive, just in case anybody finds it as confusing as I did at first, I created a just short, it's less than 2 minutes of video about how to use files, how to create the folders and the files and move them in the Google Drive. So we'll pull that up. And hopefully it doesn't take super long to load.
What we're going to go ahead and do is we are going to create a new folder, and we're going to call it Example 2017. This is going to be the equivalent of my 12th grade semester 1 folder, so we're going to go ahead and create that. So now here we have Example 2017. We're going to go into this folder, and we're going to add a folder to that. and we're going to call this class 1. This would be where you would put your math class, your science class, all of the classes that you're taking this semester. Then you're going to go into class 1, and we're going to create a document. And we're going to call this document Doc 1. And now, when we go back into our class, our document is here. Say we accidentally put this document in class 1 and we wanted to move it. We could right click and click move to. Then we're going to exit out of class 1 and we're in our example document. We meant to put it in class 2, so we're going to create a class 2 folder. And move it into our class 2 folder. Now it's here, and to move it back to class 1, we can pick it up, drag it, and drop it. As simple as that.
So it's not super difficult. I've just never been good with technology, but Google Drive is definitely a really, really handy thing to save your documents into. And then you can share it with classmates, with teachers. It's super easy to use and definitely user-friendly. And I think that's all I have for organizing computers. So thank you guys for listening. And if you have any questions about taking notes or organizing your computer, Casey and I would be super happy to answer them for you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. So if you have questions, you can either type them into the questions box, or if you just raise your little virtual hand in GoToWebinar, I can unmute you. And anything you type into the questions box comes just to me, and I'll just relay it to the girls. Greta and Casey, 2 things. First of all, are you okay with me sharing your slideshow to the group through the group chat?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll send that link out here in just a second. Oh, go ahead. Okay, and then the other, oh yes, Greta and Casey, can you guys take a minute to introduce yourselves again one more time? I forgot to turn the recording on until like one of the last, or till like Casey's second or third slide, and so I missed that part. So in case anyone wants to review the recording, at least they'll know who you guys are and that you are our presenters. So if you could do that, that would be awesome.
Okay, I'm Greta, and this is my 3rd year at Branson. I went over the computer organization. I started doing Branson sophomore year, so after going to public high school for 1 year and then going to online school, keeping the computer organized was definitely something I had to learn, among other things. But
And I'm Casey. This is my 6th year with Branson School Online. I started as a 7th grader, and I'm now a senior as well. And I went over the note-taking part of the presentation. And I was homeschooled in early elementary. I've been to public school, and then I started Branson in 7th grade. So I have learned a lot about note-taking over the years and different ways to succeed. And especially at Branson School Online, I've learned a lot of different ways to succeed. So I enjoyed doing the note-taking part of the presentation.
Awesome. Thanks, girls, for doing that. Again, any questions you're welcome to throw out. I am both Greta and Casey. You had wonderful presentations, very thorough. Just a note to extend on Google Drive, I agree it can be confusing, but it's something that I actually started using 3 or 4 years ago. And Greta talked about this briefly, but there is an offline version, or actually it's a version that you can download onto your computer. So I kind of do all the 3 things that Greta talked about in the same place with Google Drive. So there's a Google Drive folder on my computer, on my desktop. Well, it doesn't have to be on your desktop, but on my hard drive. And then it saves there, automatically syncs to online. So I can locate it just like I did, or just like Greta showed you to locate it either using your flash drive or on the hard drive. Same thing, but it's just called my Google Drive folder, and then it automatically updates onto my online Google Drive so I could access it elsewhere. So if you're interested in learning how to do that, to automatically back things up, that's also something that I would be happy to help with. And and it can kind of save you a step of having extra backups as well. So I did send out the slideshow link. Hopefully everyone can access that. That was in the questions box. A comment from Sarah that she did love these tips. She loved these tips, excuse me. I completely agree. Great job, girls. A question about finding the recording. If you'd like access to the recording, I want you to just go ahead and email me, and then as soon as I get it uploaded, I will send you the recording. So I'm sending my email address out to everyone as well if you don't have me as a teacher. Otherwise, if there's no other questions, just a reminder, we mentioned this in the beginning, presenters as well are all welcome for extra credit in the class of their choice. So I took a Google Doc, listed everyone who's here that the other teachers have access to, and then they will mark off when you use your extra credit. So don't forget about that. That's kind of a nice little advantage. And lastly, we do have our next mentor session scheduled for October 25th. My presenters will be Alyssa F. and Erica D. It will be October 25th at 1 p.m. talking about combating test anxiety. So good test taking strategies and how to kind of prepare yourself for those. So another great presentation by two of our other longtime Branson School Online members. So thank you for coming. Thank you. A big thank you again to Greta and Casey for your awesome presentation. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend and shoot me an email with any questions you may have. Thanks for coming. Bye, Allison.